Oh, I can't believe what the FBI did. And, well, it has to do with the protests. And we're going to talk about the protests in Washington, D.C. and some other things. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and just so many things have been going on. I've been trying to keep up with stuff, and I wanted to share this with you. This is a Dan Scavino tweet, and I don't have the sound on, but you don't need to see the sound because you know what's happening, right? Check it out. Yep, they're all cheering. You remember the last time that, Biden drove down the street and had all these people cheering at him, right? You remember that? Yeah. I don't either. So that was great. That was President Trump arriving in Maine. I thought that was really great, and that happened yesterday. But I just saw the tweet today, so I wanted to share it with you because it's really hard to believe the polls that the media is putting out there because you see things like this. And you never, ever, ever see it with Biden. So I just wanted to share that with you. And then this, I had to share this one with you. I know you've already seen this, you've heard about it, but it's just too funny because here's the Washington Post scratching their head going, economists predicted 20% unemployment in May. How did they get it so wrong? Well, it was because they keep watching the mainstream media that's lying to them and putting out fake news, like you, Washington Post. So they've been reading you. Oh, but really, honestly, the Paycheck Protection Program did a great job, and that's been responsible for bringing back so many jobs because people were allowed to continue to employ their workers, and that was amazing. Because, small companies a lot of times are really running just with very slim budgets. This is what helped get them through. I think it's great. Anyway, it struck me as funny because they're like, how did they get it so wrong? Because they're reading you. That's why. Anyway, all right, so let me show you this. This is what they were predicting. Remember, 1 million people to show up for the protests in D.C.? Well, they didn't quite make 1 million. They did have tens of thousands, though. So they didn't even make to 100,000. 1 million's an awful lot of people. But anyway, there were a lot of people, and it was fairly quiet as far as I hear that I think they were trying to goad Trump into bringing out the military. Well, he's not going to do it unless there's a reason. They really are just trying to paint him as somebody who is power mad, which is so ironic because they're the ones that are power mad. So, this is the kind of thing that they do. But I thought this was worth seeing that they didn't quite make it to 1 million. And notice that they say outside the fortress White House. Well, I do think that, if they'd breached the walls, they probably would have faced some pretty stern Marines and Secret Service guys. So I'm thinking that was not going to happen. But, I think they, as long as they want to just protest, that's not a problem with me. I don't care if they just are out there and they're protesting. As long as they do it very peaceably, that's all I'm asking. I don't have to agree with them. You don't have to agree with them. They have the right to protest, even in front of the White House. That's fine. But, when they get into the violence, that's where they cross the line, and that's the problem. So evidently, they just protested quietly, and that's good, I have no problems with that, and I'm sure President Trump doesn't either. So I wanted to just share some tweets with you because very interesting perspectives. This one, she says, in Democrat-led cities, you can burn churches, but you can't go to church. You can loot stores, but you can't shop at stores. You can destroy businesses, but you can't run your own business. You can break the law because they won't enforce the law. Dems are the problem. I thought that was so well said. Very, very nicely said there, Jenna. And as always, I'll leave the links to these down below. So if you're on Twitter, you can share them. Or if you're on Facebook, take a screenshot and share it. Or, copy and paste the, URL and put it in Facebook, you can do that too. And then this one I thought was really interesting because this one says they can have social outdoor gatherings of up to 12 people, but protests of up to 100 people. Tell me how that makes sense. I mean, really, it just makes no sense whatsoever. So I just had to, I had to put that. That was PragerU one, woke privilege for sure. And then this is an interesting GatewayPundit article about what Democrats and the media have done to 3 great American cities in just 1 week. And they have videos down here. This one is Minneapolis, and they really do look like war zones. They honestly do. And for some reason, I don't know, I watched this video earlier, just a few minutes ago, and now it won't play for me. So I'll just leave the link to this page and you can watch it yourself. I don't know. This one down here is New York City. This guy drives through New York City and everything is boarded up. It is just sad. I mean, everything, every store had boards on the windows. So let me try this one. No. And that's what I get when I try it. So I'm not sure really what happened because it played just fine before. Not sure. And then this one is St. Louis. And again, same thing. A lot of gunfire, a lot of smoke, fires. It's really sad. So yeah, this is what happens. This is kind of like your introduction to socialism. And so if people who are cheering on the socialism type model, they might want to rethink it because this is what, Venezuela is facing, kind of similar stuff to this. And this is what happened in our country to these 3 great cities in 1 week. And that should really sober all of us. And then over here, I just thought it was very interesting. This is an article. Oregon governor praises protesters while taking churches to court over COVID orders. This is just so insane. I mean, can you imagine? Before all this started, they were so fearful about COVID. Oh, you must maintain your distance. You got to wear your mask. And then all of a sudden, these protests broke out. And nobody cares anymore about social distancing or masks. Oh yeah, there's still some that are wearing masks. But for the most part, social distancing, not happening. And frankly, I'd rather be sitting in a church where I'm 6 feet away from somebody than in a protest where everybody's in a great big mob. I just think that, it's... If you're really believing that about the virus, then that should be something they're speaking out against. But all those health experts, nowhere to be seen. Have you seen Fauci lately? Nope, nowhere. Not been on the news. So you gotta wonder. And when all this comes out, what happens in 2 weeks? And it's been several days at this point. So what happens after 2 weeks and these people don't have a big spike in coronavirus? But yet they're out there together all the time. So maybe all these lockdowns weren't necessary in the first place. I think it's going to really destroy the media on that, at least their narrative they're trying to say. And then I wanted to show you this because I told you about my experiences with our 9 people that were supporting Black Lives Movement. I didn't get a chance to interview them. I probably should have. If I would have felt better, I could have gone up to South Bend because they had, I think, about 100 up there. And it was supposed to be quiet. But then I saw a bunch of news where there were like 170 shots that were fired during the last couple days, and several people shot. I think 5 people were shot, and a dog was killed. And so it has not been a peaceful city. So I can't blame the protesters. I can't say that, but it just seems really odd. That seems like an awful lot to have happen there in a couple of days. But anyway, this particular city in Oregon, Klamath Falls, and they decided they were going to stand their ground because they heard there were a couple of buses coming that had Antifa on them. So they decided they were going to take arms and stand and defend their city. And that's what they did. So, but you know what? Antifa never showed. And the reason that they said it, and it says here from Washington State to Indiana, have seen armed groups begin patrolling the streets after rumors spread on social media about an Antifa invasion. Well, I don't think it's an invasion, but I do think that Antifa will go wherever they can cause the most trouble. And so that, that's what they're talking about. And it's a fairly small city, I think, this Klamath Falls, but and it's fairly white too, which isn't a matter. I mean, it doesn't matter on that so much as just having Antifa, coming around. Well, it says the rumors are unfounded. Well, not necessarily. Down here it says they had a Facebook page, and this one says, "I am not one to spread false information." One of the earliest posts stated, "There are 2 buses heading this way from Portland, full of Antifa members and loaded with bricks. Their intentions are to come to Klamath Falls, destroy it, and murder police officers." Okay, so that's what they said. Well, and then it says some responding to the posts were incredulous, but few could argue when a screenshot of a direct message from Colonel Jeff Edwards, the commander of the Oregon Air National Guard's 173rd Fighter Wing, was posted in one of the groups. Now, that to me does not sound like it's unfounded. Okay, it sounds like there was a possibility, and he was warning people. And it goes down and it says that, Team Kingsley, for your safety, I ask you to please avoid the downtown area this evening. We received an alert that there may be 2 busloads of Antifa protesters en route to Klamath Falls and arriving in downtown around 20:30 tonight, the post stated. Major Nikki Jackson, a spokeswoman for the 173rd Fighter Wing, confirmed in an email that the message had come from Edwards. This was an internal message sent by Colonel Edwards to the citizen airmen of the 173rd Fighter Wing for their situational awareness and safety. The alert was received from local law enforcement agencies here in Klamath Falls. Okay, so when it says back up here that it was unfounded, that's not unfounded. That is, there is a possibility. And it was something that definitely would put a city around here on alert. I could see, some of these smaller cities, I can see them do that. Right here, we've got an awful lot of people who are, carrying their guns. And of course, they're carrying them legally and everything. And I can see them just making a line and saying, you may want to come into this town, but it's not going to happen. You're not going to cause problems here. I don't see anything wrong with that. And nobody was hurt. They were standing there with their weapons. They weren't using them. Nobody got hurt. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, and I would share that with you. And then there are some good things coming out of this, and that is 2 petitions to recall Mayor Jenny Durkin. And that's from Seattle. So kind of interesting. If you're from the Seattle area, you might want to share this, because there's the document that I guess is a petition. You can, this right here, I think is the petition. So yeah, you can get people out there and recall the mayor. That sounds pretty good. I mean, if they're not going to protect the people that elected them, they need to be booted. They really do. Well, this is going to make you mad, because the FBI, guess what they did? Yeah, they took a knee. And, see, I can't fathom them doing that, because they're supposed to be, okay, remember, this whole thing with Strzok and Page and all that, there's no bias in the FBI. Well, right there, those people are being political, and they are wearing their FBI outfits. They are under color of law right there, and they're doing something political under color of law. Something's wrong with this. They should not be doing that, because they're supposed to be a non-political agency, so they should not be taking sides. But yet They knelt, which means they're pledging allegiance to Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Nation of Islam, and New Black Panthers protesters. Yep, that's what they're doing. So, just an irritating article. You can go through and read it, but it's not surprising in some ways. And I think one of the things that we're seeing here is we're finding out, some in the military, it's kind of weeding people out. Some in the military and some in the different agencies who are definitely not going to support this administration. And I think it's good to weed them out. I really do. And if that's what it takes, I cannot imagine if they cleared that with whoever is their boss. They shouldn't be allowed. None of these people should be allowed to continue on as officers because they obviously have a political bias, and that is just not going to work. They can't keep it in check. So they need to have some kind of disciplinary measure for doing this, in my opinion. So, yeah, share that article. Let people know that even our FBI is doing stuff they shouldn't. And this whole article that Sundance wrote has to do with different failures where the FBI really did not step out like they should have. They knew about somebody being high risk and then they didn't step in and keep that person from causing harm. So, political bias is playing a big role right now. And then I wanted to show you this because this is an interesting site I'd never seen before. One of the researchers posted this, and it's Antifa, and this particular website deals with networks and connections. And so there's 26 known connections. You can go through and you can see them, the individuals and the organizations. I just thought it was very interesting to see. And it's got a nice article here that will tell you more about it and the connections. And the whole website itself is a really good one to kind of bookmark, I think, and to hang on to, because I think it's really helpful to go in here if you are, wanting to talk to somebody about one of these organizations and you're not sure who all they're connected to. I think it's really good to have this because then you can find out the connections and it'll help you when you're talking to other people about those organizations and their agendas, of course. Well, this one is kind of for fun. Sorry, guys. I know you're not going to like this, but this is J.K. Rowling, okay? Now, I'm not a real big fan of hers, but she got a lot of flack for this because there was this article. And here's the whole article. I'm not going to read it. Okay, guys. So, men, don't worry. Not going to talk about it more. But just be aware that when it's talking about this, this actually does have a legitimate point in that women have some extra financial necessities for certain items that they need every month, and men don't have that cost. So it was a legitimate article, although it took a weird route because instead of saying women who menstruate, it said people. Well, I don't know too many guys who do. And she comes off, she says, I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Woman? Wimpin? Woman? So anyway, I just thought it was kind of funny that she pointed that out, that, made fun of them because it's so stupid. It's like, come on, men don't. So please, just use the word woman. Just use it. Anyway, a couple last things here. This one is an article that I found. Zuckerberg-funded scientists rein in Trump on Facebook. And so here are all of these scientists, dozens of scientists doing research funded by Mark Zuckerberg, say Facebook should not be letting President Donald Trump use the social media platform to, quote, spread both misinformation and incendiary statements. Oh, gosh, he's the president of the United States. And it's not misinformation because when he says stuff, it usually comes out to be true. Okay? They don't want to admit that, but hey, anyway, So these researchers, including 60 professors at leading U.S. research institutes, wrote the Facebook CEO on Saturday asking Zuckerberg to, quote, consider stricter policies on misinformation and incendiary language that harms people, especially during the current turmoil over racial injustice. And so they want, they basically want Facebook to silence Trump and anyone who supports Trump. And it has more than 160 signatories. And about 10% are employees of foundations run by Zuckerberg and his wife. But then a big bunch of the others are getting grants from them. So, it's like, yeah. But down here it says, on Friday, Zuckerberg said in a post that he would review, quote, potential options for handling violating or partially violating content aside from the binary leave it up or take it down decisions. I know many of you think we should have labeled the president's posts in some way last week, he wrote. Our current policy is that if content is actually inciting violence, then the right mitigation is to take that content down, not let people continue seeing it behind a flag. There is no exception to this policy for politicians or newsworthiness. So it seems to me like they're preparing to just silence everyone, including President Trump. But we're not surprised because we were told this is what's probably going to happen. They're digging their own grave. They really are. It's not going to turn out well for them. Not at all. So that's something to be aware of and let people know, because it's not Zuckerberg himself. I think he's trying to be, diplomatic about it. He doesn't want to censor Trump because he knows if he does, it's going to be huge backlash. And so I think he's trying to figure out a way to appease these scientists and these different people that are clamoring for Trump to be silenced without actually silencing him. So, I don't know. But, President Trump was not inciting violence with that tweet anyway. And I don't know that they posted that on Facebook as well. But I know, on Twitter that it was censored. So the last thing I want to leave you with is this. This is a prayer somebody sent to me. And, right now, we need to be in prayer. We definitely need to be praying for our country and really for peace, because if people have difference of opinion from me when they're out there protesting, that's fine. But I don't want to see it escalate into violence, because then it steals the livelihood from so many people, and it's just detrimental to everyone, and it's dangerous because people are being shot and killed. Officers are being shot and killed and wounded, and it's just a dangerous situation all around. We can't just pull them out, even though the Minneapolis governing council or whatever is trying to get rid of the police and dismantle it and replace it with something else. And I can't help but wonder if it's not Sharia law. But, all of this is going on. But we need to remember that prayer is going to be something that's very important for this to come out right, and to protect people, and especially to protect President Trump and to give him wisdom in what he's doing. And so I just want to encourage you, if you want to go through and read this prayer, you can do that. If you want to pray on your own and whatever, that's fine. I just would like to encourage you to pray as much as you can, because right now is a pivotal point in our country's existence. It's very important what's happening, and there are so many things happening behind the scenes that I think we need to be aware of what's going on, and we need to be asking for God to guide us, because without him we're nothing, and he's what has brought our country to where we are now, and he's the one that's going to see our country through. So that's why we need to make sure that we're asking for his guidance and that we follow him in all that we do. So that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.